Hi, Jewish Mom. So it's possible that I've spoken with you in the past about the 80-20 principle. Maybe some of you have heard of it. Even if I haven't spoken about it, this is called, in other words, another name for it is the Pareto Principle, based on the name of an Italian economist who realized, who found out, who discovered that 20% of the causes were responsible for 80% of the results. For example, he discovered that 20% of the landowners in Italy in his day owned 80% of the land. He discovered that 20% of the pea pods in his garden contained 80% of the peas. So he basically believed like 20% of the efforts, whatever, are responsible, end up resulting in 80% of the results. So the reason I might have mentioned this in the past is because Rabbi Niven talks about this in his time management module, the 20-80 rule, and he talks about how like in life, when you're going about your day, it should be like maybe some of you've played tennis, so it has like those tennis ball machines like hit at throw out balls automatically one after another. And he says, like, in terms of time management, you should only be hitting 1 in 5 balls. 1 in 5 things that come at you, you should actually be doing. And he says, like, in terms of time management, you should look at your to-do list and just every day think, what is the top 20% here? What is the most important 20% here, which is going to end up resulting in 80% of the results, okay? So I'm talking about this now because I'm taking a really wonderful course with a woman named Yael Zaltz. She is sort of a home management celebrity in Israel. Unfortunately, her stuff is only available in Hebrew, but if some of you do know Hebrew, I'd highly recommend you to check her out. She has a website called, which is www.yael, Y-A-E-L, Zaltz, Z-A-E, wait, I'm sorry. Zals, Zaltz.co.il. And you can check out there. She has like different classes and books for sale, etc. So a friend of mine, a friend recommended her to me. And so I've signed up for like a 10 course series here at the community center of Givat Shul Kiryat Moshe. And basically, so this woman, she's sort of like if she ever wants to give up being a home management teacher, she could definitely like make a living as a stand-up. She is just a very, very funny, it's kind of like watching sort of like an hour and a half like comedy routine. But so while I'm being entertained by her, in this class, I'm also learning some important things about home management, which I think all of you who know me somewhat know I really could use, and some tips on home management. So she talks about. So she also was mentioning the 20-80 rule. It's called the 80-20 rule, 20-80 rule, and she was talking about the house, She's saying that there's something, if you think about your house, then you'll realize that there's something in your house which is the 20%. It's the 20% that's going to have the 80% of the results. What's the thing in your house which, if you do it differently, it's going to really just make a revolution in your house in terms of cleanliness and order? So I was thinking about it, and I was trying to figure it out, and I was thinking, what would really, really make a difference is if I could finally, this is something I've been struggling with for a few years and trying to get it to happen, but if I could finally get my kids to clean up after themselves in the kitchen. Like put every bowl that they eat from wash it off, put in the dishwasher, every box of cornflakes and whatever bottle of whatever, that to put it back where it belongs. You can imagine, like, with 8 kids, like, if every single child forgets, or for whatever reason does not put one thing away, then it can so easily become a complete and total mess. So I was thinking, like, this is something that I want to really, work on. So something that I did over the last 2 weeks is I decided, I had one of my children makes a signs, and it says this sounds nicer in Hebrew, but it says we put our dishes meat directly into the dishwasher, and we will enjoy a clean house. My husband said this sounds like a little bit kind of reminds him kind of like a kind of Soviet Union kind of, like a comrades proletariat unite and salute the glorious Soviet Union, but whatever. So so I have a sign like that in the kitchen. And I decided any child who remembers to wash up their dish after using it, and put it into the dishwasher without me reminding, or actually I can remind them, it's okay if they actually do it without grumbling, and they actually do it even with grumbling, just if they do it, then they get a piece of sugar-free gum. So which is, it's actually been quite an effective motivator, and it's been helping. But I want to tell you something interesting. The reason I'm talking about this was actually, like, I wanted to talk about something else, which Yael Zaltz said in our last class about the 2080. So she said, and it was interesting because in her class, it turned out that that in this last class, she confessed that her 2080 in her house was the same as mine. It was basically getting the kids to clean up after themselves. She said she was talking about how when she would come back from work, she would come home, and just like it would be like, there would be all these like plates with what do you call it, remains of sandwiches, and ketchup on the bottom of the plate, and all these cups all over. And she said so that is her. She just realized like that she is working on that, I guess, like me. And I sort of felt like, oh, good. So if my problem is the same problem as Yael Zaltz, okay, so I guess it's a good problem to have. But she said something interesting. So she said that this is something that she worked on. She worked on getting this more under control, as I am. And she said, and now the situation is 80% better. The situation's 80% gone. And I just said that really struck me, because I think that in my life, then I tend to strive for, like, it's got to be perfect. If it's not perfect, it drives me a bit nuts. If there's something in my house which is wrong, and there's a lot wrong, but even like once I work really, really hard and I get everything occasionally I get everything all good, that missing 20%, even 1%, 5%, 10%, it irks me, it bothers me, the things that are still missing, the things that are still wrong. For example, I bought my son, my 8-year-old, a pair of new running shoes. We bought them about a month and a half ago, and we've already lost one of them. So my son's gone back to wearing the broken shoes, which was the reason they were broken. The reason we bought the new shoes is because the old ones were broken and in bad shape. So we found one of them. We can't find the other one. And it just, on Friday, I started thinking about it, just like, why can't we find it? Why can't we find it? Why is something wrong? Why is everything a balagan? Why can't we just keep things straight? But I reminded myself of the 80%, what Yael Zaltz has said about the 80%. Things are 80% okay. If I look at my house is 80% okay. Look at my family, this one has to, start occupational therapy, and this one needs be taken to the dermatologist for this and that, and da-da-da-da-da. But, things are 80%, this one has to start with a tutor in something, but things are 80% okay. Things are 80% okay in my house. Things are 80% okay with my children. Things are 80% okay. And that means I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing good, And just reminded me how crazy I can drive myself by expecting complete perfection. By even expecting 90% perfection, by even expecting 85% perfection. Yael Zaltz said, no, 80%, she said, and that's amazing. To have 80%, to have the situation 80% solved, a problem 80% solved, she says, that is a true accomplishment. Okay, so before I conclude this pep talk, I want to say something about last week's pep talk. I was talking about internet filters, and I just want to make one small change in what I said. So I was talking about web Chaver, and in the end, for various reasons, I'm not using web Chaver. I just didn't want people to start signing up, thinking that whatever. So Hannah Jenny's doing it, so I'm going to do it too. So what I'm using is what I've decided to use in the end is a program called K9. online. You can find this online. It's a free program. It's like a K, and then a K, the letter K, and then a 9, the number 9. It's a free, excellent program which you can use, and my computer expert person highly recommended it to me, and I'm happy with it. And the computer expert also recommended, because I live in Israel, and if any of you live in Israel, then it says advisable to also have an Israeli filter on top of the K9, which is familiar, which is more intuitively familiar with Israeli sites, and what needs to be censored, what needs to be filtered on Israeli sites. So at this point, I'm still in the market looking around for an Israeli filter, and I hope I'll be able to at one point recommend one to you as well. So in conclusion, Jewish moms, I highly recommend to you, in terms of time management, as well as in your house, to start looking at your home in terms of the 80-20 rule, right? The 20-80 rule, whatever it's called. The 20-80 rule, thinking, what is the 20% that you can change that will be the 20% effort, which is going to result in the 80% of the results? What is the 20% of the pea pods, which result in 80%, which contains 80% of the peas? So what's that in your life? What's that in your house? What could you change in your house, which would then end up resulting, making the 20% effort and change in your house, like for me in my kitchen, which will make an 80% change in terms of the balagan level in your house, the mess level in your house, And also, I wanted to recommend to you, I just thought this is a beautiful way of thinking of it, what Yael Zalt said about the 80%, that things are 80% better. Things are 80% okay. And really not expecting more than that. If you have 83% perfection, 90% perfection, 100% perfection, kol hakavod to you, you're doing great. But if you're like me, and just getting that 80% okay is like a major accomplishment. And I think a lot of people are doing that, like hanging out around the B- 80% level. Then really, Yael Zalt said, if she says it, it must really be true. That's a major accomplishment. With everything, with all the thousands of things we have to keep on top of in the house, if we're keeping things 80% okay in our families, in our home, in our lives, we're doing okay. Okay, I want to bless all future ones with an amazing, amazing week.